Okay, I think it started. All right. So my name is Jayden Replogle, and this assignment is share your story. Um, the thing that I wanted to share actually came pretty quickly. I thought it was going to take a little bit longer to decide what I wanted to speak on and or present. The platform I couldn't decide for a while. I've had a lot of classes that have given the opportunity to make a video explaining an assignment, and I've always kind of shut that down as I don't like the sound of my voice, as most people don't. But also, I don't know, I've always thought it's kind of awkward. But I thought it'd be kind of cool to talk through it and also go through a whole bunch of bullet points and hopefully be able to tell a story, but as well paint a picture. Okay, so the story that I am going to talk about is probably the one that has impacted my life the most. Probably the thing that's imposed in my life the most negatively, but also the most positive. But it definitely started out negative. And that is the passing of my mom. So my mom passed away July 1st of 2015. And it's been quite a while since then, obviously, but it was pretty hard. I was going into my junior year of high school, and that had its own, struggles and awkward situations and growth as I kind of went to Orem High School, but I went to a different junior high in a different city, so I didn't know a whole lot of people other than the people I played football with. Sorry, I have notes that I'm going to be referring to, so I might be looking to the right a few times. Okay, so first off, after my mom passed away, my dad had a lot of hard things that happened with health specifically. He wasn't taking care of himself as he had diabetes, so he wasn't taking any insulin, and he wasn't eating, which of course is not a great combination. I mixed up the screen. Just trying to move it. Okay. Anyway, and so it was really hard trying to get him, quote, back on his feet as he wasn't taking care of himself. And so it kind of felt like it was the kids and my dad who was a little out of it. Not that that's necessarily bad, because he coped different than we did. But one of the first things that we did, that I've told this story to a couple people, that was the fact that after my mom passed away, we had a big family meeting. My dad kind of went over the fact that we were not going to have to worry about him looking to date somebody, that we really needed to focus on being a family unit. It was a really, really long meeting. I remember meeting in our house, which was really small. We met in a little dining area that we never went into. Had like a little circle table. I remember we only lived in that house for a couple of years, but I remember being in that back room, and it was super late at night. We were waiting for people to get off work. I think I may have been getting out of work at Smith's grocery store just down the street. Anyway, my dad continued to tell us how we needed to stick together and be a family unit, and that nobody knows what we're going through except for us. And so we need to really stick together, as this was a pretty shaky time in our family's history. Anyway, fast forward I want to say it was about a week or two. I was at football practice, because that was one thing that I didn't stop going to, because it was the only place I feel like I could get distracted and step away from the world for a little bit. And I went up to my dad's classroom as it was beginning of summer to use his laptop, as he's a teacher at Orem High School, to use his laptop to print off my class schedule. He said yes, and as I logged onto his laptop, there was multiple dating websites for adults and things like that. And so I immediately closed the laptop and I just left. My dad didn't really know what was going on. I don't even think he noticed that I left. I just left. Moving forward a couple days, I hadn't brought anything up, and me and my dad got into an argument, and just like any other 6 or 15-year-old, probably didn't bring things up in the right light. Me and my dad were in the heat of an argument, and I brought up the fact that he lied to us about dating and things like that, and that he told us one thing and really it was the other. And he got very defensive and very angry and told me that him dating had nothing to do with us, and that was his own decision, which obviously was a very emotional answer. But I knew from day one that after my mom passed away, how's my dad going to be alone, as he's not somebody that necessarily does well by himself, or he likes being around a lot of people, kind of likes being the center of attention, likes having the spotlight on him. But I more thought of, what is he going to do after after my brother, who at the time was in the middle of junior high, was going to do when he graduated. What's going to happen when my dad is truly home alone? I didn't know what what that was going to look like. I was very stressed about it. Even though that was years down the future, I wasn't expecting, what is my dad going to be doing this time come Thanksgiving, anyway, so he ended up meeting a girl named Sandy, and they went on a couple dates, and I hadn't met her before. And first time I actually met her was she came to a football game that we won in double overtime. So it was a super emotional win. I remember I was super excited. I was exhausted. I ran in the sideline and gave my sister a hug. And then my dad all of a sudden came down the bleachers holding somebody's hand. And I've never gone from 100 to 0 so quick. I was so caught off guard. I instantly, one of the, the greatest nights in the last couple months because of, what had been going on. It was the first time that I was focused on one thing and nothing else mattered. But that I got stripped away pretty quick. Very quickly, my dad it felt like he was giving me the sales pitch of, she's really great. She's never had this. She finally felt like she was part of a family and all these different things. And here I am hearing it for the first time and meeting her for the first time. And she's comparing, her to, being part of our family, which kind of, like a better word, stung. Anyway, so they dated for a while, as in they were engaged by Thanksgiving. And that was, its own hard thing. I'd only met her side of the family one time. I'd met Sandy, obviously I'd met her every so often, but more often than not, my dad just wouldn't come home till super late and they were on a date. She would drop him off and then leave. And we didn't interact with her. We didn't really talk to her. They were doing their thing and we were someone for him to come home to. Okay. So fast track to my first experience with therapy. So very quick into the school year, I got called down to the office, and that was kind of weird because I hadn't had that happen for years. And so I got called down, not really sure what was going on, and come to find out they were asking me to, if I wanted to / will you please, meet with the school therapist. I really didn't want to, but I was also very awkward and didn't know what to do, so I just said yes. So I remember I went back with him, and we met, and it was very much he talked a lot, and I kind of just listened and didn't really know what to say or do. So we set some goals. I definitely do air quotes because I didn't feel like they were any of what I really wanted to do. And so we met again. I believe it was the following week. We met again. He wanted to know how I was doing and our goals and things like that. And I didn't really take much thought into any of the goals or anything like that. And so I definitely tried my hardest to give answers that would result in no more future meetings. I didn't want to meet with him. I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want to jump into all that emotional mess per se. And so that was my first time experiencing with therapy, and it was horrible. Didn't enjoy it. I feel like I don't really need to explain why. It's pretty self-explanatory for the circumstances why I didn't enjoy it. We ended up moving into her house on, I believe I put Christmas Eve, but I actually think it was the day after Christmas. Because I remember everything was still up. It was pretty chaotic, and I came home at super late. I worked till midnight at the Smith's grocery store. Kind of said that earlier, but I came home and my dad was packing up the car, and we had a trailer attached to it, and it was snowing. I remember my younger sister was really upset, and I didn't know what was going on. And come to find out, my dad had decided that we were moving into her house, and that if we moved into her house before the end of the month, we could skip out and not have to pay rent the next time. We would just live with her, and they were already engaged, and so that was the next step, I guess. And so I came home, and I remember it was snowing, and my dad was really angry because nobody was really helping. But again, it was dark, it was snowing, and I mean, the house wasn't even packed. It was just random bags of things just thrown into the back of this car and trailer, which eventually we kind of gave up. Because it was an open trailer for one. I don't know why he chose that one while it was snowing. I think that kind of goes back to the not thinking straight due to circumstances and emotions. But anyway, so we ended up moving in very quickly. And moving into that ward was its own struggle and trial. I remember we met with the bishop one time, and he asked us how we were all doing. And before any of us could respond, which I knew my sister for a fact was really struggling with the young women in that ward, very different type of people than she would typically hang out with or be around. My dad cut us off before we could say anything, which we're all pretty shy, so we weren't probably going to jump the gun and result in conversation. My dad quickly jumped in and said, "Oh, they love it. They're doing great." Something I appreciate that Bishop did is he says, "Okay, well now let's hear from the kids." And that's where I think my dad got pretty angry because he didn't super enjoy the things he was hearing. Um, Family dynamic. I've kind of talked about siblings a little bit. All of us kids, there's 4 of us total. I have an older sister, a younger sister, and then a younger brother. So it's girl, boy. And we're all about a year and a couple months apart from each other. So we're really close. We're close in age. Close in the sense of family. All of us are very different. At the time, I wasn't really close with any of my siblings. My older sister, Mackenzie, was very different from myself. And my sister, we just butt heads. I think it was because we're very similar. And then my younger brother, we always joke that he's considered the punching bag, as he'll take whatever is given to him. He doesn't really stand up for himself. He kind of is just there until the trial or moment is over. But anyway, my sister had just barely graduated high school, so she had basically moved out once we moved into my stepmom's house. She kind of dipped and moved to Salt Lake, and we just don't really see her much even now. And so that's kind of the dynamic of the family there. My oldest sister was 18 when my mom passed away, and then my youngest sibling, my brother, I think he was 12 going on 13, something around there. Anyway, so I was about a year away from graduating, and I graduated, and then I went on a mission. I definitely view the mission as an escape from living at home and figuring out all of those different things that were going on. And I was also told that it's not necessarily a bad reason why I went on a mission, but it can't be the reason I stay out. I really worked on that with the person I actually emailed the most consistently being my stepmom. I definitely, in hindsight, know that I didn't put as much effort as I should have in that, because once I came home, I thought that our relationship was going to be fine. Everything was going to be good because, we emailed consistently. We had conversations, everything like that. I thought everything was going to be great. Came home, and that wasn't the case. Very quickly, me and my dad started butting heads again. And I definitely thought going on my mission was going to change the way I viewed everything. And when I came home, it didn't change that much, but that was simply because I definitely didn't put effort into that when I was on the mission. I kind of focused on that and purposely did not focus on the latter. And so that led to actually some confrontation with my dad and a lot of our siblings. So me and my sisters both didn't talk to my dad for over a year. And so obviously was not ideal, for most family situations, especially when you only have one parent at the time. Kind of discarding the other or making it sticky or hard relationship definitely was not beneficial to our family cohesion or any kind of relationships that were there. So I can't remember how did I. Okay, so rewind a little bit to back when I lived in Pleasant Grove. I'll never forget. Remember, there was one time we were pulling into the garage and we were just fighting. All the kids were fighting. I think I was in 4th or 5th grade at the time, so everybody else was kind of staggered, as I talked about the ages already. And my mom made a comment about how we need to get along and we need to stop fighting because we never know when someone might be gone or when our last conversation will be our last conversation. And I'll never forget that because that came back very quickly after my mom passed away, that experience. Because at the time, I definitely blew it off. I was like, you two are young and we're kids. Nothing can happen. We don't have to worry about anything like that happening forever. And I didn't really even worry about it at the time. I just was more mad at my mom for getting mad at me for getting mad at my brother, if you followed that. One of the things that I also want to share real quick, I brought some things to share. So there's this. Let's see if you can kind of see it. Scoot back. Oh, there we go. Okay, so my mom's name was Jayden Replogle. Her maiden name was Meldrum. This is her here, and this is me with her when I was, I want to say 8. Anyway, and these flowers are actually from her funeral. And so I just wanted to share that. But this is something that actually someone made me a while ago, but broke, and then I kept all the pieces and flowers for a couple years in a box. And then I can't remember if it was for a birthday gift or just a gift. They fixed it, made a better shadow box. It's very cool. Other things, my mom, growing up, we were very poor. And so Christmas gifts were mostly clothes we need and things my mom made. And so my mom every year would make us a book. This is my favorite one. It's 101 Things I Love About You. And it was really cool. As we flip through, I'll do it briefly. I think I have close to 8 or 9 of these different books of all different things, but it has pictures of like me and my mom, and then has things that I love and about that she says about me. She says, I love that you give me great hugs. I love that you try new weird foods. I love that you help your siblings with math. Math is one of your strong suits, and I love your chubby cheeks. Anyway, she made multiple of these books. I remember as a kid, I always enjoyed them, uh, because I was they were nice. I definitely, uh, I'm not gonna lie, there were times where I would act a lot more excited than I was, simply on the fact that I knew my mom cared so much about them, and that we weren't really getting a whole lot of other things, maybe some army men, but I kind of just wanted to make sure she knew I appreciated it. Um, but I was always a little bummed when I didn't get, I always joke about the Godzilla Hot Wheels station. I wanted so bad, but I never got. One day, maybe. But um, just to wrap up the story, and then I kind of want to go through points and lessons that I've learned, that kind of turned this experience from such a negative um, experience to I don't even want to say a positive experience as much as I want to say a learning experience, because I'd rather have my mom here and not have this stories to tell than to have these. But one of the last things I want to talk about is to move forward multiple years. Now I'm married. I have to Elizabeth, and now I have a baby, Emma. She just turned 3 months like a couple days ago, a week ago actually. Wow. But that's been a huge blessing. You can kind of hear her in the background. But I have on here that excuse me, that one of the things that I always stress about, right, is my mom passed away, or all the things she's gonna miss. The list consisted of only a few things, but major things to me. It was one, graduation. As you walk through the O and take your diploma, something that people would do is make signs or fly a flag where they're going on a mission or whatever. And I always wanted to do this because that's what my mom would do. That comes from the Little Rascals. She'd always do that when she'd come to my football games. If we made eye contact when I was on the field, she'd do it. And I rarely did it back because when she would do it, I was normally surrounded by people and I was a little embarrassed. But it was special to me. And I was really sad when I wouldn't be able to do that with her there. I still did it. It was a cool moment, but not how I pictured it. Another one was, of course, opening my mission call. Another one was coming home from my mission. And then probably the biggest two was getting married, and knowing the fact that my wife would never meet my mom, at least here, and then meet the baby. But that was pretty hard, in kind of accepting those realities, and trying to find positivity. And then everybody would always tell me that my mom is here, not necessarily physically, but physically is how I wanted her here. As much as people would tell me those things, and I'd try to see it that way, it was very hard to see it that way. Anyway, like I said, I'm gonna jump forward a little bit now in the story, and I'm gonna talk about my second experience with therapy. So my wife has been going to therapy for a couple years now, and she actually, I don't know how long ago exactly it was, but it's about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. It was pretty close to when we got married. My wife started recommending her therapist to me. My first thought was no and no. The first no was because, it's therapy and men don't need that. The second no was because it's your therapist, and your therapist is going to be biased when you complain about things, and I complain about things about her. She's going to pick your side because she knows you longer. Little did I know that she was professional and she wouldn't do that. Her name is Michelle, and I've been meeting with her for a while. I haven't been in a while, due to, I don't want to say doing well, but doing well / just being really busy with school and work. But we really worked a lot at first on just mine and Elizabeth's relationship, as we were newlyweds and figuring things out, and it was very complicated and very busy and very hard. But it very, very quickly turned into working on the source of what had been going on in my life, and what has kind of a lot of built up anger and frustration has come from. And we talked a lot about my dad and a lot about my younger sister, Madison. Um, she was able to talk about how my mom, even though she didn't know she was going to be gone, she did all these things, such as these books that she made for me in preparation for when she'd be gone. That there was definitely a plan that we didn't know, but came to fruition about how things would happen. And at the time, I didn't take much gratitude in the books that I have, but now they're my greatest possessions. I know it's very cheesy, but when people ask me if you could save one thing in a fire other than your family members, what would it be? And it's these books. Um, it's an opportunity for me to remember my mom, and also for me to share with my children who their grandma is. Um, with my therapist, we talked a lot about the position of my dad. Not that necessarily he made the right decision in every single thing that he did, or that he did things the right way, but that he was going through a trial that I wasn't. I lost my mom. He lost his wife. I lost my mom, who I thought would be with me forever, who was going to watch me and my kids grow up. And my dad lost somebody he thought he was going to grow old with, somebody he asked to be his and be by his side for what he thought also would be the rest of his life, but that was cut short. Um, as I don't believe that justifies some of the actions that the things that he has done, and nor does my therapist. We've talked about the why behind a lot of different things, and the what to learn, how I would change with my kids, how I would act differently towards my spouse, and the different things that I want to incorporate into my character that I take away from my dad in both a positive light and in a different route. I don't know what to say. That doesn't sound super negative to him, but just that there are things that I've learned from the way that my dad has handled these stresses that I definitely want to learn from. Now that I'm a husband and super recently a dad, um, I'm I'm excited to keep the lessons that my mom has taught me, and to keep in a sense, her spirit alive, as I continue to grow and be um, the father that both my baby deserves and that my mom expects. Um, and I'm very grateful for all the lessons that I have learned from this trial. Like I said at the beginning, this is definitely not the most positive, happy story that's kind of changed my life. And in fact, it's been kind of, I don't know, it's weird. It's hard to explain. It's positive and negative. And it just depends on what kind of light and what part of the story you're looking at. Um, but as I tell my story, I do hope that the end of my story does end with a positive light. And um, that's pretty much it. I have a couple things here. Let me make sure I covered it all. Sorry, there's a lot. Another lesson that I learned that kind of ties all that in together is that also family is all that you got. And so as my mom passed away and I lost that relationship, I started to feel like I was losing my dad and all my siblings. But now my best friends, somebody that I've loved hanging out with, is my sister and her husband. It's kind of a new development. We've only been super close for, I don't even know, like 5 months. It feels like it might be longer. I can't tell. My wife's shaking her head no, so I think it's longer. 1 year is what she says. But it's been great. It's been a blast. They live close enough to where we can visit them and we can see them enough. And it's really cool because we weren't on speaking terms a year ago, as we talked about, but now things are closer than ever. I talked to her for a couple hours once on the phone, and I realized then that I was old because I watched my mom do that with her siblings, and I never understood how she could talk about one thing for an hour. But that's my story. Again, with the positive and negative lights, but it's been kind of cool as I've gotten older and asked for more help in coping with all of this. The more positive light I'm able to use to drown out all the negative stuff that I used to consider a burden, still kind of is, but figuring it out. And yeah, anyway, that's my story for the past year, and hope you liked it. Anyway,